All right, so I figured I'd do this one. This is going to be just some quick hits and my ranting about some stuff that I just see online and just said, and I'm kind of thinking to myself as I'm working. So I figured, what the hell, might as well talk about it, right? That's the whole point of YouTube and social media. It's a chance for schleps like me to run my mouth. So, why don't I start with something that's top of mind in the world of pro wrestling? All right. There's some comments about Rampage, and I'll credit Raj Giri, the great Raj Giri. I really like his. I've always liked his personality. He probably won't remember this and won't remember me, but I have to give him credit and make a comment that Raj Giri years ago. This is probably like 2007, maybe 2008 or something. He actually reached out to me, or I reached out to him, I should say, but he replied to me with an offer to start covering. I think it was either SmackDown or it wasn't Heat. It was one of the shows. I want to say SmackDown, but I might be wrong. Start covering and doing some notes or doing something for him for the Wrestling Inc. back in the day. And me being the immature college grad or soon to be college grad that I was like, oh, I don't know, because I didn't want to make wrestling my work. I just liked it, and frankly, I was doing some other things at the time. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life. So I actually said, I don't think so, whatever. But, I want to give him credit. First of all, he's very nice. Second of all, would I have made a whole career out of that? I really don't know. I've ended up in finance and doing other things, but the bottom line is I want to give credit to Raj and shout him out a little bit, just because, like I said, he won't remember me, but I remember him and remember that. So giving him credit for a tweet that he sent out where he said AEW Rampage back at its regular time slot averaged 361,000 viewers this past Friday, down 12% from the week before, which aired at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The show scored a 0.08 PG-18 to 49 rating, down 27%. It was the lowest P18 to 49 rating in show history, including preempted episodes. I replied to this tweet myself, just saying time for a time slot change, maybe 6:05 versus 10 p.m. But let me actually point something else out. I said 6:05. Maybe I should amend that to 7:05. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm a firm believer that Rampage will never be SmackDown. It's not even going to be Thunder. And the reason I say that is because Rampage it gives me the Sunday Night Heat, WWE Velocity vibes, maybe WCW Worldwide vibes, even though they don't like to do recaps and all the other studio aspect. It gives me those kind of vibes. For those of you who don't know, WCW Worldwide, even WCW Saturday Night, I think Saturday Night's above this, by the way. Rampage just gives me second-rate vibes. It's filmed, we all know it's filmed after Dynamite, which to me leaves for a dead crowd, because you can't be excited about wrestling at 10:30, 11 o'clock. You got to be tired. You've been there for 5.5 hours already. And I don't know if that's just Tony Khan. He is a huge wrestling fan. Like, he could sit and watch matches for hours and hours and hours. I love wrestling. I always will. But I can't watch 7 straight hours of wrestling. I'm sorry. Like, especially a match fest. Like, I could watch a lot of old WWF, WCW, whatever, because I was invested in the characters. But I can't get into just watching 10 matches in a row. Like, it's not a sport of exhibition where, okay, I don't know the teams, but I know the goal is to win the game. And if there's an added storyline, that's great. But if there's no added storyline, I can still watch college football, even if I'm not into it, because I know at the end of the day, they want to score points, win the game, and then they get something out of it, right? Wrestling isn't like that because it's not real. So I need the story. I need the invested character. I need the show to be, the presentation, everything has to be on point to suspend my belief and get me excited. And Rampage, with all due respect, is not that show. Rampage is Velocity. Rampage is Sunday Night Heat, maybe less than Sunday Night Heat. Rampage isn't even WCW Saturday Night. It feels more like WCW Worldwide. And honestly, Worldwide was more interesting to me when I was younger because Worldwide gave you recaps. Worldwide set the tone for what was coming up next. And for those who don't know, WCW Worldwide was actually the last broadcasted WCW show ever. I know people say it was the last Nitro, but in reality, Worldwide actually aired a few days later. It was pre-taped, but it aired a few days later. And the only thing that happened on that show is noteworthy is at the very end, Scott Hudson made the famous call where he said, "And that's it for WCW forever. See you down the road somewhere else." So, just a side note on that. But anyway, it's not surprising to me that Rampage is struggling. I think it's time, if Rampage is really something that they want to invest in, you have to move it to a different time slot. I think you get the rub off SmackDown by doing a lead into it. Do 7 o'clock Rampage, preempt SmackDown. You have a built-in younger fan base that's ready to watch WWE. Let them watch AEW as a lead-in, and then you get the main event in SmackDown. SmackDown's the best wrestling show on television right now. It is. It is. Under Triple H, SmackDown has improved to a level where it is the best wrestling show on television. With all due respect to Impact, all due respect to the NWA, and all due respect to those participants of Monday Night Raw, Dynamite, etc. SmackDown is 2 hours. It's crisp. It's got good stories. It obviously has a good mixed roster. It has the only heavyweight champion in WWE right now, Roman Reigns. It has everything that a good wrestling show is supposed to have. SmackDown is the show. So you don't want to be after the main event. You want to be before the main event. What is the old saying that wrestlers always use? They don't want to be the match before the main event. They don't want to be on after the perceived main event. They want to be either the main event themselves or they want to be the opening match, right? So if I'm AEW, be the opening match. Start the show before SmackDown. Start it at 7 o'clock or even start it at 6:30 if you need an hour and a half. Whatever you got to do. But run it up into SmackDown. Do not be after SmackDown. I watch Rampage only because when my kids are asleep, so by the end of SmackDown, my kids are basically in bed, right? So 10 o'clock Eastern time for me, I'm probably in my game room. It's Friday night. I'm probably got a drink, and I'm chilling, playing on my Xbox, watching wrestling, have one TV on my video games and one on wrestling, right? So for me, Rampage is fine. But I am not the fan that Tony Khan wants. The mid-30s, late night, night owl dad of two is not exactly exciting for Tony Khan. Tony Khan wants the younger kids, he wants the 25-year-old and all that. He wants to get the fan that left, okay? But that fan is not watching AEW, which is lesser known than WWE. They are not going to watch AEW on a Friday night. If they're not out first of all, they should be out. They shouldn't even be in the house. Okay, so that's another problem. Imagine a 25-year-old or even a 23-year-old. Do you think that 23-year-old on Friday night is sitting in his room watching AEW? Now, I know people are going to make jokes. Well, the AEW fan is because they're basement, whatever. All right, come on. But all kidding aside, that wrestling fan is going to be getting ready to go out. So you want to hit that fan on the way, okay? You want to hit that fan on a pregame. You should be like WCW style, right? Like, hey, party with us, right? Don't worry, we don't need to steal your night. Party with us. That's what AEW should be. It's Friday night. Oh, you have a life, so you're not going to stay in on Friday night, but have a couple drinks, eat your dinner, and watch AEW before you go out. That makes it more attractive. And for the younger kids are going to be up at 6 o'clock. Kids are going to be up at 7 o'clock. Okay? 10 o'clock is late for little kids. So if you're trying to draw in that audience, it's a better time slot. So move the show before 10 o'clock. Get it before SmackDown. All right? So that's the first comment on that. All right? So that's just where it is. Now, obviously, in no way, shape, or form do I want AEW to try to compete directly with WWE. Okay? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay? And we got a little tweet here. I'm just live commenting here on something else. So Vince Russo just tweeted out a couple hours ago, as someone who once made a good living from wrestling, just really wish you could get some sensible answers from their current diehard audience. Why is AEW Rampage down to 300,000 viewers? What is Triple H really doing to improve Raw? Real answers, not cult BS. Okay. So I can actually answer that here, and then I'll try to tweet something back to Vince. But so here's my first answer. AEW Rampage is down to 300,000 viewers because that's the core hardcore audience that legitimately will watch Rampage every week, and that's a more diehard audience than what would watch Dynamite. Okay? So that's number one. Rampage is in a horrible time slot, and it can only be watched by people who are even more committed to the product than those who would watch Dynamite. It's a seriously small number, relatively. Now, the network might be okay with it because I'm not in those meetings. So they might be saying, yeah, we're great with the built-in 300,000. You know, because what we think about what would be on a Friday night on TNT, right? It would be a rerun of what? Megalodon or Megadon, whatever that shark movie, or a rerun of Fast and the Furious or something. I mean, just being realistic, like that's the kind of thing that they are putting on instead of AEW Rampage. It's not like they're not going to put on. They don't have the license to have the NHL on Friday night, so they're not missing out on that. They're not missing out on baseball. They're not missing out on basketball. They already have those things covered. So realistically, like they don't do college football on TNT. So there's really nothing else for them to have. So Rampage isn't a terrible option. But, and that's assuming that, and again, I'm not in those meetings, but just being fair, like reruns of movies, is that going to do a better number than Rampage? I don't think so. So I guess the answer is it's down because the core audience is so small, and that's all they seem to really attack. They don't care about the casual fan. And Rampage is an even more core audience show because it features the Orange Cassidys of the world. Okay? That is not for the casual wrestling fan. So that would be my answer on that. And what is Triple H really doing to improve Raw? Real answers, not cold BS. Well, first of all, Vince, I have to first concede that I truly see the improvement in WWE in the premium live events and in Raw and SmackDown. Raw is what it is. It's 3 hours, which is too long. So that's the first thing. I concede that 100%. I was struggling to watch Raw for a long time. And I recently have been able to watch it. Now, am I watching it with bated breath like back in the day? No. No, of course not. I thought Raw was good from the 90s, up until like about the mid-2000s. I thought Raw was solid. Like I could watch it every week and I wouldn't be saying, oh, this is horrible. Raw now, it's back to a place where I can put it on in the background as a secondary thing, whether on my iPad or on a second television, or I could watch it with a drink, because maybe I'm not as invested in some of the teams playing on Monday Night Football or whatever else. I can click back and forth if I'm with my wife watching other programming. We watch like Below Deck, other things on Bravo. So Raw is an option, whereas a couple months ago to a year ago, it was really not an option. I didn't care if I didn't watch Raw. I could miss it. Now, I can miss it. I don't want to miss SmackDown, but Raw is watchable. And 3 hours of watchable is an improvement over 3 hours of unbearable. And whether you could say it's Triple H or it's the wrestlers, whatever, I don't know who it is, but the only tangible difference between Raw now and Raw last year was Triple H becoming the man in charge versus Vince. So I have to give him credit for that. Now, you're going to ask, well, what exactly is better? All right, just similar to SmackDown, not exactly, but similar to SmackDown, the action in the ring seems more violent. So the tone of the show gives me a little, it's not Attitude Era, but it gives me a little bit more ruthless aggression. Now that's different from what I was getting out of Raw for the past couple of years, right? And WWE in general. Triple H is starting to impose not a return to ruthless aggression, but aspects of ruthless aggression. For example, Austin Theory, first of all, getting his full name back, I like that. Second of all, his whole attitude, he's less goofy. He doesn't wear the jumpsuit looking thing. He comes out, he seems more serious on the mic. The way he wrestles seems more aggressive. He gives me a vibe of a Randy Orton circa 2003. Solo Sikoa, the beatdown he laid last night. Now, there was no blood. I disagree wholeheartedly with Triple H on no blood. I think there should be a little bit of blood because there's things like cages, chair shots, facial contact. There's just things that happen in a contact or combat sport, quote unquote, that you have to have blood to emphasize what has happened. And once in a while is not the same as a bloodbath like what they do sometimes in AEW, right? So I disagree on that. But the beatdown Solo Sikoa had last night, where he did the spike in ode to what's his name, Umaga, and he did the butt splash thing that his father used to do. That was a little bit of ruthless aggression. He put the chair on the guy's neck, had him in the corner, and hit him with it. And this is after hitting him in the throat with the spike. Now, that to me is ruthless aggression. Now, it doesn't mean everything in WWE is ruthless aggression. I'm not saying that. But the tone of Raw, just like the tone of the whole company, is shifting towards ruthless aggression. That's the notable difference. If somebody said, what is the one thing that the WWE is different, has been different with Triple H versus Vince McMahon, it is a slight return, if not a push, towards the ruthless aggression era. And that is a big deal. That's the big deal. It doesn't mean it's a great show. It doesn't mean you have to watch. But for my personal viewing pleasure, it has improved enough that I say, out of the 3 hours, there's going to be at least an hour or so in there where there's going to be stuff that I really do want to see. The Solo Sikoa thing, I'm glad I saw that live. I usually enjoy the Judgment Day. I like their music. I like their matches usually because I like that style of wrestling. Anything Bobby Lashley is good. Lashley's, again, he's not goofy. They're presenting him like a serious threat to anybody. I like Seth Rollins, the way he's been on the mic, all of his matches, everything. There's just a lot of ruthless aggression tone back in the show. It's still too long. There's still a little bit of goofy, and it's not as crisp as SmackDown. I will grant you all of those things. But that's my answer, Vince, if I had to answer this question. So that's my take on WWE, AEW, just some quick things that have come up that I see online that are, subject things of interest. I have to say something else too. I don't understand this hatred of Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is a legitimate fighter. She came into wrestling. Everything she does is legit looking. So what? She didn't sell a DDT. First of all, stop talking about selling and not selling. Okay? She didn't sell a one move in your opinion, or she didn't do it right. All right, let's just be honest. The real reason that quote-unquote hardcore fans have an issue with Ronda Rousey, it's because Ronda Rousey makes them uncomfortable because she's an alpha female. She's strong. She could legitimately beat up all the people who are critiquing her. Legitimately. She could literally stomp you or choke you out. There's nothing you could do to defend yourself against her. And that makes you nervous. You like the goofy girls. You like the Shotzi's. You like the Nakamura wrestlers. You like all the wrestlers who give you soft vibes. The ones that go on Instagram and hug each other and kill kayfabe to let you know that this is a safe place and a safe environment and everybody loves each other. That's the kind of stuff you like. You don't like things that make you nervous. You like Brock Lesnar when he smiles. You like Brock Lesnar when he wears a hat or because his hair cute. You don't like Brock Lesnar when he's just a monster. That doesn't make you comfortable. That's what your issue is with Ronda Rousey. That's what the issue is. It has nothing to do with her wrestling, okay, because most of the people critiquing her don't know anything about wrestling because they've never been an athlete. Okay? You like the goofy people who were once like you, who got into good enough shape to bounce around a ring and are now calling themselves wrestlers or WWE superstars. You don't like serious professional wrestlers. You don't like former bouncers. You don't like former bounty hunters. You don't like former football players. You like Steve Austin because you think you're supposed to. But you wouldn't really like Steve Austin if you grew up, if you and experienced him now. You wouldn't like his promos, the way he run. He doesn't do the flippy floppy stuff. He's not smiling all the time. You don't like that stuff. You don't like serious wrestling. You like goofy pro wrestling. You like Karate Kid, Colt Cabana stuff. Stuff that makes you feel safe. Because you're not the audience that had wrestling when wrestling was actually popular. You're the new leftover microwave redo audience that only cares about wrestling because it makes you feel safe. You don't like sports because of toxic masculinity. You don't like Ronda Rousey because she is seriously threatening, and you'd never say any of this to her face. I guarantee that. Never. That's the issue with Ronda Rousey. You don't want to fire Ronda Rousey. You want to fire the tone because you like silly stuff. And that's what's wrong with the modern wrestling fan today. They don't really like real wrestling. They like goofy wrestling. That's why they like flippy floppy Karate Kid Harry Potter moves. Because it makes them feel safe. They know it's fake and it looks fake, but that's cool because it's gymnastics, it's twirling, it's fun, it's silly. They don't like straight punches to the face. They don't like hard clotheslines. JBL makes them uncomfortable. They don't like wrestling. They don't like that stuff, okay? They don't like that stuff. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk briefly about football. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Jets, the Giants. Quick hit about the Giants before I get into the Jets, which is the bigger deal to me right now. So the Giants tied. I think Daniel Jones, when you think about what he's playing with, he's proven himself to be worth sticking around at least for next year. I mean, you're not going to upgrade the quarterback position as easily as a Madden game where you just make a trade. You're not going to get Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to draft Patrick Mahomes. The odds are very low that you're going to find something better than Daniel Jones. And to be honest, Daniel Jones still has room to grow. Imagine Daniel Jones 2-3 years in a row with this coach, with this general manager, building out the talent, working with him. Just picture that. Versus rotating in different coaches, guys who you didn't think were qualified, who are supposed to be teaching him how to play the quarterback position. He's 6'5", he's mobile, he's got a good arm. I think he's worth keeping. If you get rid of him, you are going to be bringing in something of lesser talent, and you're going to regret it. Now, when it comes to options outside of the quarterback position, the Giants really need to improve the wide receiver role, but I don't think that that's necessarily OBJ. Here's the problem with Beckham. They don't need to spend that kind of money right now. They don't have great cap room. And on top of that, going into next season, you got to figure the Giants, they're going to draft a receiver. They're probably going to be able to make a move for somebody. And also, they should get Shepard back. So Shepard, Slayton, another receiver, maybe another tight end. Again, continue improvement of Daniel Jones. This offense might be more productive than it is now, and it's not horrific now. Then you look at the Jets. The Jets, it seems like the fans and the players are all on board for Mike White, but it's the outward appearance of management, and it's also the commentary from the so-called experts on all these sports shows that's holding back Mike White. So the thing I don't get about the experts, it's as if they just don't want Mike White to be the quarterback because they didn't tag him. It feels like a lot of the pundits didn't have their hand in him, so they don't want him to succeed. Because I don't understand what the issue is with this guy. Okay? He's 6'5", 220. He throws a good ball. He's extremely accurate with the football. And he's had no coaching, no help, no reps. And he's already been a more productive quarterback than Flacco and Wilson with same talent. You could argue with even less talent because they had Breece Hall earlier in the year, and he's out now. And they had a better line earlier in the year. And so he's working with slightly less talent, but still good players like Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, the tight ends, Uzama and Conklin, and he's making it work. Barrios. He's got that offense humming at a higher level than what they have been with the other two guys. Now, again, is the issue that Mike White wasn't preordained? Is that the problem? Is it that he's not flashy enough? He doesn't run around enough? Let's get into it because I have a feeling, and this is maybe a broader conversation about pundits now, especially like former athletes who talk about football. Everybody's obsessed with the running quarterback. And I don't know if it's a race thing or whatever, but the running quarterback has never won a Super Bowl. Okay? Steve Young had not even half the rushing attempts of Lamar Jackson when he won the Super Bowl. And he's probably the last running quarterback, quote unquote, to be a Super Bowl champ. Running quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. There haven't been any, not even in the modern era. And basically from like 2005 to now, everybody's been drafting guys who could run. Everybody. Everybody wants a quarterback that's mobile, outside the pocket, buys time. You hear this all the time. Let me tell you what the mobile quarterback does. They roll out to their right because 90% of them are right-handed. They roll out to their right, they shrink the field, they panic, and they either take a late hit, they either make a bad last-second decision, or they have to throw the ball away. That's what the running quarterback does. Or they get hurt a lot because they try to run, and defensive ends and linebackers and safeties are all better athletes and can hit harder than what that quarterback can dish out a punishment on his end. Here are the exceptions to that rule. Daniel Jones, Ben Roethlisberger when he was younger, and Josh Allen. Most quarterbacks, when they are outside the pocket running, you have literally your heart in your mouth because you know they're going to take a hit and be out for the season. RGB, or Robert Griffith III. Remember him? Long career he had, right? Vince Young. Remember him? Lamar Jackson, MVP. Have the Ravens won anything? They've gotten destroyed in the playoffs. They've been terrible in the playoffs. Why? Because the guy can't do anything when it matters. You know why? Because you can stop a running quarterback. You can't stop a quarterback that can read the defense and make the right throws. You know why? You can throw a football faster and farther than you could ever run. You run 20 miles an hour, you can throw a football 60 miles an hour. You run 20 miles an hour, but you do 1 yard at a time. You can throw a football in a second or 2 or 3 seconds. You can throw the football 50 yards. I mean, what are we talking about here? It's just not sexy enough because at the college level, the coaches don't want to work on and develop and take the time to produce a quarterback. They just want the best athlete at the moment so that they can win the most games in that moment. So that's the guy that gets all the attention. Then that guy gets drafted, and the NFL coaches say the same thing. They just want a guy who can make plays. But guess what? Defensive ends and linebackers now have adjusted to the running quarterback. The same way that defenses are not allowing the deep ball, the defensive ends are not allowing you to just run around them all day. You have to make throws in the pocket. Or you can step to the side, you can maneuver, but you have to make the throws. Is that why they don't like Mike White? Because he doesn't run enough? Just let the guy play. He's the quarterback. If I'm the Jets, I look at the pundits and I just say, I don't care. And by the way, this whole concept of like, well, they have to prove themselves because Zach Wilson, they don't want to make that seem like a wasted draft pick. A wasted draft pick would be you drafted him, you play him, and he hurts the team. A wasted draft pick is not you drafted him, you tried him, it didn't work. You're putting him to the side because you also picked up another player. So instead of worrying about taking the heat for Wilson, take the credit for Mike White. Dallas didn't do anything with Mike White. And I saw a YouTube video of Mike White years ago throwing a football, hitting a goalpost from like 50 yards out. Dak Prescott and him were having a competition. Prescott tried to do the same thing. He couldn't do it because he's not accurate with the football. Dallas is more concerned with a marketing campaign down there than they are with playing a guy who has more arm talent. This guy, Mike White, can play. Let him play. And I'll eat it if I'm wrong. But let me tell you something. What you've seen out of him so far, if the Jets don't commit to this guy, he will be the starting quarterback for another team next year. And he will get security and he will be a good quarterback. You could put that down on paper. You don't think other teams are sitting there thinking to themselves, can I get my hands on this guy? You don't think Carolina would like Mike White right now? You don't think Atlanta would like Mike White? You don't think New Orleans would like Mike White? Really? The Bears have Justin Fields. You don't think they realize that they probably have a guy who's going to get hurt a lot and they wouldn't love a guy like a Mike White? Are you serious? Like, let's just put this in perspective here. If you don't take advantage of this, somebody else will. Nothing to hold your head on. Hold your head down on. If I'm the Jets, if I'm the Giants, moving forward, I think this is going to be. They're going to finish the season strong. I don't know if the playoffs are still in hand. It's going to be difficult, but the rest of those conferences are winnable. So you're not going to win the division, but you certainly should have a good shot to make the playoffs. And I also want to shout out something else. A team that gets no attention, but the best team in the NHL right now is the New Jersey Devils. And they get no attention from national media, and they get no attention or love from local media. So let me just put this out there. The New Jersey Devils are the best team in the NHL. They have the best record. They're young. Their only weakness was their goaltending, and they shored that up between the backup Sheed and Vanacek. This is a good hockey team. They're young, fast, physical. They skate, they have skills, they have endurance, they play good defense well enough, and they can score in bunches. I would not want any part of having to play the New Jersey Devils. They have 10 lines they can run at you because they have a bunch of guys, even guys on their minor league team up in Utica that they can rotate in that can play. The New Jersey Devils are for real, and the NHL is being put on notice by them. They're beating everybody. I don't care. Boston has a good record. I'll take Boston on. Boston's going to fade eventually. They're older. New Jersey is on the rise, and they get no love. And it's probably because they're overshadowed in their own market by the Rangers and to some extent by the Islanders. But the New Jersey Devils are the best team in the NHL right now. And they need to get some love and some respect. So that's my commentary for today. It's December the 6th, 2022 at 11:30 a.m. here on a wonderful Tuesday morning. That's my comments, and that's it. And as always, we're going to keep on having fun here in the Corner Arcade.